Let me just give you an overview of how the city actually prepares for a response. One of the things we did just a little different is we put together what you call a primary response team that's, that's really made up of departments within the city of East St. Louis. And we have some of that team here now. Might be a member calling here. Let me check that. Okay, no, no. And what happens is that this team, whenever there is any suggestion of a storm or things that will become disaster related, what happens is this team meets, and we're under the direction and the auspices of the chief elected official, which is our mayor, Emeka Jackson Hicks. She's over this department. You can give her a little. And with her, myself, the fire department, the police department, then we have representatives from finance and regulatory affairs, which the fire chief holds two hats. He's over the fire department and regulatory affairs. And so what we do is, from a primary response perspective, is we come together and begin to look at the situation and how we're going to address it. Now, the reason you see these panelists here, and I'm gonna give them a chance to introduce themselves, is that this is the real core of how we really get things done. You can always depend on these agencies to come together in time of disaster. And first of all, we have the director of operations from MedStar, and he's a real busy guy. But John is that person, and I'll give him a chance to. So let me just do that. Let me just start to the left, and I'll give them a chance to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Tina Davis, and I am the disaster manager for the American Red Cross.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Nowak, and I'm the operations manager with MedStar and also their disaster preparedness officer.
I am Captain Cole with East St. Louis Police Department, incident commander from the city in regard to law enforcement and everything in between.
Good evening, my name is Stan Crucius, Regional Coordinator, Illinois Emergency Management Agency.
And I'm Mila Blanford. I'm the Assistant Administrator and Director of Environmental Programs at Eastside Health District.
Jason Blackman, Chief of the East St. Louis Fire Department.
And
Regulatory.
and then we got Lieutenant Franklin.
Lieutenant D'Angelo Franklin, shift commander, evening shift 2 to 10.
These are the agencies that come together, and they're quite a bit more. But one of the things that happens with emergencies is that, and Stan drills this, an emergency always starts and ends locally. So the reason we say that is that East St. Louis has to do preparations. And there might be some questions later that's dealing with the floods we had. See, that started with us and it ends with us. And unfortunately, it didn't get to the federal levels. I'll let Stan talk about that a little bit, where we got a federal declaration. Because within the federal declaration, you get funds, you get money. But we did a local declaration. St. Clair County did a declaration, the state did a declaration, and we presented that to the federal government for a declaration, but unfortunately, there's a threshold that we didn't meet, so we didn't get that. So now, briefly, we start off again with the emergency response team. That team gets together, and through the directions of the regulatory affairs, we do what you call a damage assessment. So they give us a chance to understand what's going on and what we're facing in time of emergency. And because of, I'm gonna switch a little bit, but because of time and time restraints, I'm gonna give John the first session so he can talk about what is MedStar's responsibilities and role when it comes to emergency response.
Thank you, Anthony. Once again, my name is John Nowak, and welcome you here. This is part of what goes on behind the scenes that a lot of people don't ever know. There was a lot of planning, and here has done a great job with pulling this team together and putting plans into play, from my role in EMS all the way up to the fire chief, all the way up to the Illinois with Stan here. So if you can't put them all together and start planning, and like we said, we're coming up on the weather season, and that puts a lot of threat on us, but we do planning for everything. And when, you know, if we don't have a plan, you can't attack what happens. And so we have realized that over many, many years that you got to put plans into play. Sometimes you might have to veer off the plan a little bit here and there because of the situation that it happens, but if you got a plan that everybody can work off of, you have a general idea what needs to be done. And that's what Anthony has done a great job working along with Stan and the rest of the members on this team. And my role is EMS. I'll keep it short and sweet because I could talk to you for days about what EMS couldn't do. Don't keep it short, okay? But there are a lot of things that many people don't realize what the EMS, and I say EMS, let's say the healthcare can be provided during a disaster or at events, planned events. You know, we always got big events going on. We plan for those too. But anyway, what EMS can provide, of course, you know, our operations, we have 19 ambulances that run around in the St. Clair County area. There are 5 that are assigned to East St. Louis, Washington Park, Allerton, Centerville area. But in an emergency situation, and we just drilled this last week out at Scott Air Force Base, we wanted to know how many EMS agencies, how many ambulances we could truly get in an emergency situation. We were able to pull off 45 assigned ambulances within an hour. You know, you say an hour, but that is truly a good deed, especially if you got an emergency going on. You got a tornado that comes through here. 45 ambulances could be a big help on getting people that are injured and getting them to the right facility, as long as those facilities are still standing and haven't been affected by whatever the disaster might be. So, but some of the things that MedStar has done over the years, and we've learned hard lessons, is that we've sat down and designed plans, and then our plans are written around what East St. Louis has come up with, our local government, our cities, what our county government, and then of course what our state has put into plans. So we try to write them together to where they all match and everybody knows what everybody else is going to do. Some of the quick response things that MedStar does provide is we have 2 strike teams that are available. And when I say strike team, that's a manager and 5 ambulances that can respond within, we like to say within a 30 to 45 minute time frame. So that's 10 ambulances that I can pull out of my normal operations and send to a location when needed. Some of the other things that we've done throughout the floods out here, this is something that a lot of folks don't know, but you don't even think about it, but you have this big disaster and you're taken away from your medications. 2011, I believe, maybe, I can't remember the exact year, but we sent a team down here of individuals just in a vehicle, an operations vehicle, and what we've done is we tried to find out a lot of the residents that we know that have medical problems and being treated for ungodly things. We went to those residents to make sure that they were okay. And the big thing that we found out is what they were having the most trouble with was getting food, water, and medications. We forget about them. You can't keep a stockpile of them around because they'll expire on you. So one of the things that we have done is in them types of situations, we will try to get people out to help get medications. I can tell you Walgreens is a huge help here in town. We were able to go to the individual's house and find out that they have their prescriptions through Walgreens. We were able to drive over to Walgreens, pick those prescriptions up, and bring them back to that family member. So those are kinds of things we do. You had to plan that though. How do we do that? So you had to plan that, figure out how we're going to get individuals to do that and get the manpower into whatever area it is, East St. Louis, wherever, throughout St. Clair County. So that's some of the things we do. I know they'll probably get into a lot more detail with you, or they might. Hospitals, we have planned on how to get people to hospitals, making sure those hospitals are still capable of taking people. We have even worked on plans throughout the county and state to be able to set up mobile hospitals if needed. So And that all has to come with planning. You gotta have people to be able to set these mobile hospitals up. You gotta have people to be able to staff them. And then we gotta be able to get to them and back from them. So there's a lot of things that go on. And the biggest part of it is getting everybody together and putting that plan together. So you have some idea which direction to go when something goes wrong. Anthony, I won't take up too much more than that, so. Any quick questions for me real quick? I know there'll be some. Yes, ma'am.
So you said if it's like an emergency when it comes to medical, will you all have like a guideline, say for instance, okay, me, I have an alert system in my home that that has to be running. So does that mean that you all will have like a contact line into the real big emergencies?
If it's available to us, yes, ma'am. One of the things that we do, we have the capability of seeing who we've transported many times. You know, like, I'm just gonna pull somebody out of the top of my head, somebody that's on dialysis, that they have a real need for medical on a daily basis. So somebody like that we know that's in this location, or somebody being treated for cancer that we know is in this location, we have the capability, working with the county through different types of systems that have been put into play, to be able to reach out to you if phone lines are available. If not, what will eventually happen when we start calming down a little bit, there will be people to come out and check on you and make sure that you're okay, that you got your medications and stuff like that, which I'm sure he's going to get into deeper with that for you.
Okay. John, thank you so much.
And I'm sorry, folks, but I got to excuse myself, so got a busy night ahead of me. I appreciate it, but this is where it all starts. If we don't start with us all together, pulling together as a team, we can't help each other. Okay, and it's great to see you guys here interested. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Before I go to Mr. Cruz.
The reason John's leaving,
Yes.
he gotta go to his father's funeral.
Yeah.
That's how much he loves his job.
Yes, I do. And thank you, guys. You didn't have to mention that, but
All
thank
right.
you very much.
Before I go to Mr. Crucius and talk about a real explanation of emergency management, I see that Mr. Marty Gully has just come in. Marty, would you stand up and just give away?
You ain't that short, Marty.
Marty from Metro, which also plays an important part in emergency management. But at this time, I'm gonna bring Mr. Stan Crucius, and he's gonna give us a quick overview of emergency management.
Thank you, Mr. Benson. Well, thank you for having me here. Thank you from Director James Joseph, Illinois Emergency Management Agency. Our vision is pretty simple, always ready. That's our vision within Illinois Emergency Management Agency. Our mission is prepare, protect, assist the citizens of the state of Illinois through planning, prevention, training, mitigation, response, and recovery to all hazards, man-made or natural. We appreciate you being here, and we've talked about disasters, and people say, well, what is a disaster? What's the definition of a disaster? Pretty simple. It's kind of wordy, but I'll read it to you because I can't memorize every word. It means the occurrence, and more importantly, the threat of widespread or severe damage. We act the same when there's a severe threat out there. When we know there's a threat. Excuse me, a threat of widespread or severe damage, injury, or loss of life or property resulting from any natural or technology cause, including but not limited to a lot of stuff: fires, floods, earthquakes, windstorms, hazardous material spills, water contamination, blight, drought, inclement weather, critical shortage of essential fuels, infestation, energy explosion, riot, hostile military or paramilitary action, or acts of domestic terrorism. As you see, terrorism is out there, more and more since 2001. But what is emergency management? It's the science of managing complex systems and a multidisciplinary approach to address emergencies and disasters across all hazards. But what I'm here about is talk about community preparedness. It's all about a whole community approach. Nobody has a wherewithal anymore to bring the event to successful response and recovery. We all know that. The budgets, the funds, the personnel, everything's shrinking these days, folks, all across the world. So it takes more and more of everybody working together to respond and recover to disasters, you know, natural, man-made, whatever disaster is out there. Storm season is coming up. So we look at a whole community approach. And it's the whole community that brings it back together, because the sooner the whole community bands together, you know, the governmental authorities, the private citizens, non-governmental organizations, the Red Cross, all of our partners across the board, we can respond and recover in a much better community fashion. And that's what I like to see you here, because we look at the whole community. What is a whole community? It's really easy. We all have a shared understanding of the needs and capabilities. Mr. Benson, police, fire, EMS within a community, you know your community much better than I. I have about 6,000 square miles in my area I cover. I try to know a lot about everything, but I don't know everything about everything.
Right.
You know your community. You know your demographics. You know the needs. You know where the hot buttons are. You know this, so we encourage you to be part of the whole community program. Shared understanding of community needs and capabilities. You know that. All the officials up here know that better than I do. I'm here to assist. When I in the state of Illinois come in, I say, what can I do to assist you? What are your unmet needs? What do you wish to accomplish? How can I provide any material, any technical guidance, things like that? I'm here to assist, you know. I'm here, you know. You are my customer. Another thing is that you have a greater empowerment and integration of resources across the community. You know what resources work best in your community. I'm here to assist you in that. Stronger social infrastructure. The stronger the whole community is, the stronger you work together. You know, the old saying, it takes a village. It's not just one person, it takes a whole village. The government, the citizens, the community, our partners. You help establish relationships. You facilitate more effective prevention, protection, mitigation, response, and recovery. Increased individual and collective preparedness, and a greater resiliency to bounce back. If you work together, you can get back to normal so much better. And that's the main thing, to bring the government, to bring the community, bring the citizens, the services together in a much more rapid and complete circle to recover from a disaster or emergency. But there's things everybody can do, like create a family plan, a disaster kit. I'm going to leave some of this material with Mr. Benson. He can also run copies and get copies off the internet. But here, like a disaster kit. It's really simple. Build a disaster kit. I have, you know, instructions here. Make a plan. You discuss with the family emergencies that could occur. You talk among yourselves. What's our threats? What's our hazards? What's our vulnerabilities? You build an emergency supply kit, you know, for your house, your vehicle, where you work, because you may have to leave, you know, pretty rapidly based on the event. You get trained, learn CPR, first aid, know how to shelter in place, turn off your utilities, your gas, your electric, if you can do it safely. But if you can respond and do these things, you can recover that much better. Volunteer. There's a lot of volunteer opportunities. We ask the whole community to come together. We also look at emergency preparedness tips. And more as all of us age, there are special needs for those with access and functional needs. You know, we all know people have their individual, you know, needs. So we have right here this booklet on for service animals and pets, for the elderly, for functional needs, for seniors, for parents and caregivers of children. Talks you through the system. Disaster tips for people who use life support systems, like John talked about. Dialysis and other things that need oxygen. And it's really simple on how to get a kit for those special needs. And right here it's like, excuse me, you know, activities to be completed, so don't feel that you're alone. You know, we try and give you the material, walk you through the process, an activity to be completed, and date of completion. But right here we try and give you the instructions and give you the guidance that we can all work together within a whole community approach. Pretty simple questions, you know, we'll be around to answer questions after the presentation. I just want to give you an idea that it's a whole community approach, that I can help you and you can help all of us so much better by coming together for the whole community.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Vince.
Thank you. But one of the things that we depend on a lot, and Stan spoke about these disasters, and a lot of times we think of that as really being big. And our assignment is really to address the big disasters. But we find that there are a lot of little disasters where we've had house fires, where it was an actual disaster, loss of lives. And our priority is first life safety and then protection of property. That's our main reason why we come together to focus on emergency management. And one of the agencies that's always there is the American Red Cross. And we're going to give them an opportunity to just tell a little bit of how they fit into our emergency preparedness process.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Tina.
Thank you for allowing me to be here this evening. The Red Cross, the first thing that ultimately we do in a community is we like to help prepare individuals for any sort of disaster, to prepare yourself for a simple home fire, how to make sure that all of the residents in your home are safe, to make a kit, have a plan, have an escape plan in your home. But when it comes to the big disasters, the Red Cross is primarily known for sheltering. We have to be invited into a community. We just don't show up and take over. We would have, Mr. Vincent would give the Red Cross a call and let us know that we have a population of folks that are either being evacuated or have a need for a shelter for any particular reason. And then we would determine a location that's prior determined. Say this facility could be a shelter location for us, and then we have contacts for these sites that we call on to open. We mobilize our volunteers to come in, get our shelter trailers that have the cots, the blankets, those sort of needs. And then we also feed. We can feed out into the community. We have the mobile feeding trucks that if we identify that there are people that have their power turned off, a tornado has come through and people are in the neighborhoods trying to clean up. We can do mobile feedings in those neighborhoods. That's primarily what the Red Cross does, but to make yourself, your family, your community safe is where we can start. So tonight, by you being here, shows that you have an interest in, you care about what's happening, and for you to spread the word in the community when you leave here is the best message that you can give any one of your citizens in the area to help. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. And of course, one area that we depend on a lot when it comes to disasters, we depend on law enforcement. And it's extremely important when we have spills and things of that nature, because they have to set perimeters. So at this time, I'm going to bring Captain Cole, and he's going to talk about the law enforcement efforts as it relates to emergency management.
I want to answer your question. Years ago, we've had school shootings, church shootings, company shootings. We had bridges to collapse in Pennsylvania. We've had disasters. And departments in that area could not even talk to one another. We couldn't talk to him because we didn't have the radio to do so. And what I mean by that now, since, 9/11 and all these school shootings and all this, now we have what we call radio inoperability. And that's the STARCOM system that we have. Now, Stan kicks off something, he'll tell us what frequency to go to, and everybody around here now can talk and communicate and go to where we need to go. So in your situation, some of that information comes across the radio, and we shoot to that area to handle that. Plus, in East St. Louis, and we've tried to do this, but we hadn't had much cooperation, is that we have what we call the grid system in our computer system, okay? Let's say we go to a home, that person uses oxygen. We can put into our computer, anytime we go there, firefighters especially, to a fire and oxygen don't mix. We can tell them that, hey, that person's in the first room to the right and they're using oxygen. As long as the people allow us to put it in the system, and responding, even ambulances, it increases the response time and safety for first responders. Okay? The role of East St. Louis Police Department and every other department around is protection of life. That's the first thing. We set boundaries, we secure those boundaries, but most of the time, we become rescuers of those people who are trapped. I've saved quite a few people out of the fire. Franklin on State Street, Detective McClellan, we just turn into do everything we can, okay? Along with the fire department, the other guys that are responding, we do what's necessary to get the job done. But our main job is when we secure the area, we just need the public to understand we're not going to ask you to move or ask you to stay out. At this point, we're telling you, and we really don't have time to argue with you on certain situations because we're trying to save someone from going in and getting electrocuted and I've been there. I stepped in some chemicals in 08, was it 08, Steve?
I believe so.
08? We had a thing where it was a disaster with some chemicals and the guys couldn't tell us exactly where they were and we're all over the city looking. And I happened to be across the street from the health district. Then I looked down and I said, oh, they stripped me. They burned my clothes. They scrubbed me. So I've been there. So a lot goes into it, a lot of preparedness. We have a lot of support up here. We can call them at any time. St. Clair County, we call them. 11 when we had all that rain and the floods, the highway collapsed. And everybody said, why is Fairview Heights down here? Why is Belleville down here? Why is Alton down here? Why is these people? Fire trucks and stuff going everywhere. That's part of the drill. That's our help. That's our support. Even the police department, St. Clair County State Police, all those police departments that were down here securing what we could within the city. Okay, the lights went out. We're up and down the street with our lights on, spotlights on, trying to make sure nobody's in your backyard, breaking into your home. That's our job. And we do it. We call the lieutenants in. You don't have a choice. We call the detectives in. They don't have a choice. We get everybody we can into the station so we can deploy everybody. And we're out in our cars and we're looking, and past mayors have ridden with us. We've jumped out into water to save babies, and we don't have boots ready like they do, but that's what we do. And we're out for 48 hours. We're out, nonstop without sleep. So that's what we do as far as the police department is concerned, but we have a lot of other things that we do, but mainly we go out to secure the homes, make sure we secure the people first, because when we get a little older, we get a little surly, right? So we have to, we have to kind of, break it down and just explain to you what's going on, but it happens, right? So that's what we do. We make sure that, I can't say we especially do the seniors, but it's a place in our heart about our seniors and our kids.
Excuse me.
I wasn't pointing at you. But we have a place in our heart for our seniors and our kids, and especially when we have our church folk out and all that kind of stuff, and our schools, we kind of get there to secure them, and make sure they're okay. But that's our role in this. Plus, whatever they say we have to do, we transport water and all that kind of stuff. We do it all, but there's a lot of it that doesn't go seen and is unheard, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on. And then when we debrief, a lot of us kind of cry about some things too. So that's what happens when we all get together on a disaster. Because I've known Stan for 28 years or something like that. So work with him a bunch, and that's what we do.
Teamwork.
Right. And I also have to go. We had a death in an extended family of ours also, which works with Marty Gully, and we got to go out and take care of that. So Lieutenant Franklin will sit in from there.